That's duodenum. By the time we get to the end of the duodenum, chemical digestion is complete. All of the rest of this really curly part here, this is all jejunum. This is all for absorption. And if we were to take that small intestines and cut it this way and look down into the tube, the inside of the tube is not flat and smooth. The inside of the tube is covered with a whole bunch of little projections called villi. And if we microscopically looked at one of those villi, it has a whole bunch of little projections on it called microvilli. And that's to increase surface area. If you were to take all of the villi and microvilli in the human small intestines and lay it all out, you'd be able to cover a tennis court. That's how much surface area you have. The more surface area, the more absorption, the more efficient your absorption is. Okay? So we go all through the jejunum, and then this last couple of centimeters.
What is this right here?
I'll tell you in a second. Okay. This last couple of centimeters of small intestine is the ileum. And the ileum leads to the large intestines. Stuff out of the way. Leads to the, which is the large intestines, which is all this stuff. There's less of it, but it's larger in diameter. Right where the ileum, the small intestine, meets the large intestines, you have this little blind sac right here. That's called the cecum. If this were human, this would be where our appendix is hanging off of. Okay, pets don't have an appendix, they have a cecum. Okay, there's also a valve, the ileocecal valve right here that regulates flow from the small intestines to the large intestines. Okay, the function of the large intestine is to reabsorb water. And if we could put this in the proper orientation, it would be something like that. So this would be your ascending, your transverse, your descending. Okay? And then that all comes down here, way down in here, and that's the rectum. It's for storage and compaction of the waste prior to elimination. That part down here is actually firmly attached to the back body wall by a mesentery membrane down here. This has to be opened a little bit more to see it. But that's just called the mesocolon, and all that is to hold, it's a mesentery and it's holding the colon. It holds
Is
the
that
colon
the
in
same
place.
thing that's between all the...
No, no. That's a mesentery too, but this particular mesentery, its function is to hold that colon in place, that rectum in place, so that we can compact the waste. Okay? This up here, what you're talking about here, this is the mesentery.
Yeah.
That's the mesentery right there. And that is, your small intestines isn't just tied up in a knot and stuffed in there. It's actually held in a very specific orientation, and that's what that membrane helps to do. Because you don't want it to have to be all kinked.
Right.
I'm sorry? Because when it kinks, then you get impacted, you get blockages, and it can actually get necrotic, and they have to cut it out. So you only lost 12 inches? That's not bad.
But it wasn't obstructed.
Yet. Right. That would have been really bad. Okay, so that's the mesentery, and then there's all the arteries and veins from the small intestines. This right here, right there, is it's like a fat apron. That's called the omentum. And it is attached to the greater or the big curve of the stomach, right here. It should be. It was. On this side of the stomach, the big curve of the stomach. So this is called the greater omentum, all this gooey stuff. If you look on the inside curve or the smaller curve, you also have some here. That's called the lesser omentum because it's on the lesser curvature of the stomach. Okay, so greater omentum is all this goo, lesser omentum is over there. Okay. Also, if we look back at our liver, you see this big ligament here. That's called the falciform ligament. It almost seems to split the liver in half. Its job is to hold the liver up against the diaphragm. Keep the liver in place. Okay. Now, if we look at respiratory structures. So again, here's the trachea. This big bump here, this big cartilage here, these big plates right here and right here. Those are the thyroid cartilages, and those correspond to these right here. Thyroid cartilage. Okay. The bump on the front, that's the Adam's apple. Okay. If we look inside here, okay, this right, let's get oriented here a minute. Okay. If we look on this side, this is the opening right there to the trachea. Okay. And you see this little flap of skin right here? Not skin, this little flap of cartilage right here. It corresponds to this thing right here. That's the epiglottis. Okay? When the cat swallows, and when you swallow, that epiglottis slams down and covers the top of the trachea. And that forces food back down the esophagus, which lies right behind the trachea. Okay? Sometimes if it goes down the wrong pipe, something gets in underneath that epiglottis, then you cough it out. Okay, so that's the cat's epiglottis right there. You can also see in here, if you look closely, these right here. These are the arytenoid cartilages. Those correspond, can you turn that around? Yep. Those are the arytenoid cartilages right there. And those are attached to the vocal folds in there. So if you pull on, if you squeeze those, then you move the vocal cords. Like that. Okay? So again, these are the arytenoid cartilages right here, these hard things right there in the cat.
Oh, I think we have a thyroid gland on the side.
Yeah, you do right here.
Yeah.
You have one. You have one.
We have one.
You have one. Only one. But you have one. There you go. Yeah, they're located just below that thyroid cartilage, and there's one on this side, and then a transverse piece that connects the two of them, like saddlebags sitting there.
Bless you.
Okay, what you don't have, though, is a thymus. Thymus is another gland that is in this area. I don't know if you had one and it's gone. It's really hard. Glandular tissue is pretty fragile, so you get a lot of people mucking in here. It gets all screwed up. But if this is an older cat, it wouldn't be there anyway, because as we age, it degenerates and goes away. So it might not have had one to begin with. Okay. When you breathe in, again, your diaphragm goes down, right? Ribs come up and out, so you expand. To do that, you need to innervate your diaphragm muscle, right? There's got to be nerves going to it to regulate it. Two main nerves, one on this side, and this white fiber right here, this white thread on this side. Here and here. Those are the phrenic nerves. You can actually follow those. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, here it is. Phrenic nerve comes all the way up here. Goes all the way up. That innervates the diaphragm and allows your diaphragm to move all the way down.